Let's take a look now at what the future holds for South African students returning from Ukraine and whether or not they will get university placement back home. We're joined by Professor Ahmed Bawa. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Universities of South Africa. Always a pleasure to see you, Professor Bawa. Thank you for availing yourself this afternoon. Perhaps let's start with taking a look at, the curriculum, if you will, maybe pointing out differences or similarities between South Africa and Ukraine.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dudu. And I think this is a very complicated matter because our universities have just gone through the process of filling in spaces, and this year, there were about 210,000 places that were available for first-year students, and of course, and then there were students who are already in the system. And we have no idea really what programs the students in Ukraine are studying, and just how that will match, if you like, what is available here. So I think that we'll have to start really just by doing a major kind of information collection to try and understand what the needs are, and then to have a conversation with the Department of Education and Training, together with the universities, to determine what is possible. Clearly, there's any possibility of bringing students into the higher education system here, then we should do that. They have suffered a lot and have been placed in conditions of trauma, and we would like to kind of respond to that as positively as we can. So just an example, if there's if there are students who are studying medicine, for example, there are such long waiting lists, for students who want to study medicine. So it's unlikely that there'll be places available for students who are studying medicine, for example, in Ukraine, to gain places at universities. But in other subjects, it might well be possible.
A myriad of issues that you point out, and as we have this conversation, I wonder, you speak of, there being a waiting list in terms of capacity and students that universities can handle in South Africa. How much more of a complication is this element of funding? Some, would probably have gone there on bursaries and then now come back to have to pay fees. How will that work?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we'd have to look at. There might well be students who can afford to come to universities in South Africa. For others, it might be necessary to look at the possibility of bursaries and so on. But it is a big challenge. It's a very bad time in some respects because all of the allocations have just happened, if you like. So it's not as if there's kind of pots of money waiting, if you like, for this very sad occurrence, and for the placement of students. Having said that, I think once we've got a better idea of what students have been studying and what they want to do, then we can start thinking about these things. Yeah. Clearly, the universities would want to help as much as possible.
Of course. Professor Bawa, what of exchange programs, and I speak maybe specifically continentally, right? So having some of the learners, as we speak about capacity issues, we've got amazing universities throughout the rest of the continent. Could we possibly see, if it's not something that's being spoken about yet, in the near future, where we have such exchange programs?
So let me just say that many of the students in Ukraine come from other parts of our continent. So I'm aware, for example, of students from Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, who were studying in the Ukraine and who are very likely to also be returning to their homes, to their home countries, if you like. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But what we would also do is approach the Association of African Universities to see if it can begin a process of engagement, if you like, on this issue that you raise. So we have an ongoing conversation with the Association of African Universities, so that we'll pick up that conversation with them.
I wonder how much further of a complication the issue of where you are in, your academic journey, whether you're in your first year, your third year, or, your second year, how much it would complicate these learners' lives.
Yeah. And I want to complicate it even further, in the sense that, if somebody's done second year, say, engineering in one of the Ukrainian universities, it doesn't necessarily mean that the structure of the curriculum is the same. So it might well be that there's a need for a conversation on a one-to-one basis about what students have done in the Ukraine and how that matches what will have been done, what would have to be done in the South African at a South African university. So that's all sort of very much still very much a complex conversation to have. And I must be honest, I can't see that there'll be a very rapid uptake of students. I think that we have to start aiming for an intake sometime in June, July, I would say, for the second semester. That would be much more, what can one say, much more plausible, if you like.